Well, that pretty scathing report into what led to 2024's feeder main rupture. You've heard the problems the expert panel pointed to. Let's talk about the proposed solutions now. Kerry Black is an associate professor and Canada Research Chair in the Department of Civil Engineering at the U of C. She joins us now. So let's just start maybe with your overall thoughts on what this panel found, Kerry.
Well, nothing altogether surprising necessarily. No smoking gun, no one thing that contributed to the break. So that was expected. Some important recommendations, but there's a whole lot of nuance to that report that most people need to have an appreciation to understand a bit more detail.
Let's talk about the recommendations that stood out to you.
There's recommendations around governance and oversight. There's recommendations around, mimicking what we see with NMAX or EPCOR up in Edmonton. Those recommendations are a little bit beyond, say, what I think most of us were expecting. A lot of it is around prioritizing high-risk areas within your pipe system, which is a big part of asset management. And those recommendations, again, pretty much expected, I would say, given the fact that we've now seen a second break within that pipe.
The panel does recommend that the work to twin the feeder main be sped up. Just how disruptive do you think that could be in terms of further citywide water restrictions?
Yeah, the issue of redundancy is not a new conversation in Calgary. So having additional ways to get more water to the community without relying on one section like we do right now, that conversation has been ongoing for a very, very long time. It causes a disruption and it costs a lot of money. Those are two things that no city council wants to engage in, but the reality is that's where we're headed. So yeah, there can be expected to be quite a bit of delay and disruption in order to make that big change of redundancy and also repair the pipe. So we're looking at some pretty significant impacts to our construction timelines and the disruptions to our water services.
And we've been focused on the Bears Paw feeder main, but if I'm hearing you correctly, if these conversations have been going on for a long time, I'm wondering, is this the start of water infrastructure throughout the city needing to be replaced en masse?
Well, it's much more common for smaller pipes to fail. And when the smaller pipes fail, it's not as much of a disruption. It's causing a minor disruption to a smaller amount of people. When it's a major feeder main like this, it's causing large disruptions to a lot of people. So water main breaks are really common, and the city has had and continues to have a plan for repairing and replacing all of those pieces of pipe. I think this is the bigger piece that this is going to have is an impact to other cities in how they're prioritizing their pipes. So if this can happen in Calgary, we're going to see other cities looking at how they assess their pipes and looking at maybe making some pretty significant changes to the way that they're doing business.
Finally, you mentioned nuance. Television newscast interviews don't do well with nuance in a 600-page report, but if there's something you could point to there that maybe we've glossed over, what would it be?
It would be the words that surround things like mismanagement. City of Calgary and Calgarians as a whole need to be very careful how they read the word mismanagement. It's not to say, and you can see that in the report, it actually says, this is not to lay blame on one individual person. This is collective decisions where we are trying to prioritize what's most important to the city, as opposed to being, you can't fix everything. So you prioritize the things that are the highest risk. And so it's really important that we read through that report and not just want to point fingers, and that we don't see words like mismanagement and think that somebody wasn't doing their job. That's not the way that things have been done. It's not the way things are being done right now. So you want to read it with a little bit of a careful analysis, but you want to be very careful about not wanting to point fingers.
And that's a really important point to make. I'm glad you took time to point that out to us. Kerry, thanks so much.
No problem. Thanks for having me.